The hidden reason injury victims lose. Their lawsuits. Most people think injury lawsuits are won or lost because of the severity of the injury, a devastating car crash, a serious workplace accident, a life-changing medical mistake. But in reality, some victims with legitimate injuries walk away with nothing, not because they were lying, not because they weren't hurt, and not because the accident never happened. They lose because of a hidden factor that many people don't discover until it's too late. In court, the strongest case isn't always the one with the worst injury. It's often the one with the strongest evidence, credibility, and timing. And every year, injury victims unknowingly make mistakes that can quietly destroy their claims long before a jury ever hears their story. The question is, what are those mistakes, and why do they cost victims millions? When most people imagine a personal injury lawsuit, they picture a courtroom battle centered around one thing: the injury. They assume that if someone is seriously hurt and the other party was clearly at fault, justice will naturally follow. It sounds logical. If the facts are on your side, you should win, right? Not always. In reality, personal injury attorneys often see cases where genuinely injured victims recover far less than expected, or lose entirely, not because their injuries weren't real, but because critical mistakes weakened their claims long before trial. And the most surprising part is that many of these mistakes happen within days or weeks of the accident, long before a lawsuit is ever filed. One of the biggest hidden reasons injury victims lose their cases is a lack of evidence. After an accident, people are often focused on getting medical treatment, contacting family members, repairing damaged property, and trying to return to normal life. What they don't realize is that evidence begins disappearing almost immediately. Security footage gets deleted, witnesses become harder to locate, accident scenes change, physical evidence deteriorates, memories fade. The longer someone waits to document what happened, the harder it becomes to prove exactly how the incident occurred. And in a legal dispute, proof matters because courts don't decide cases based on assumptions. They decide cases based on evidence. Another major issue involves medical treatment. This surprises many injury victims because they assume seeking treatment eventually is enough. But insurance companies and defense attorneys often look closely at what happened immediately after the accident. Did the victims seek medical attention right away? Did they follow their doctor's recommendations? Did they attend follow-up appointments? Were there long gaps in treatment? These questions matter because gaps can create doubt. Imagine someone claims they suffered a serious back injury in a car accident, but waits months before seeing a doctor. The defense may argue that the injury wasn't serious or wasn't caused by the accident at all. Even when the victim is genuinely suffering, delays can create opportunities for the opposing side to challenge the claim. Then there's social media, a factor that has dramatically changed personal injury litigation over the last decade. Many people don't realize that insurance companies and defense attorneys routinely review publicly available social media content, photos, videos, comments, dossier updates. Even seemingly harmless posts can become evidence. Imagine someone claims a severe injury has limited their daily activities. Then, investigators find photos showing them engaging in physically demanding activities shortly afterward. The post may not tell the whole story. The activity may have lasted only a few minutes. The victim may have been in pain afterward, but legal disputes often revolve around perception, and a single image can create questions that are difficult to overcome. Another hidden problem is inconsistency. Injury victims typically tell their story multiple times to police officers, to doctors, to insurance adjusters, to attorneys, during depositions, and possibly in court. Small differences are normal. Human memory isn't perfect, but significant inconsistencies can damage credibility. And credibility is one of the most valuable assets in any lawsuit. Jurors don't just evaluate evidence, they evaluate people. If a jury begins questioning whether a witness is reliable, even strong cases can become much more difficult to win. Then comes perhaps the most overlooked issue of all: Timing. Every state has legal deadlines known as statutes of limitations. These laws establish how long someone has to file a lawsuit after an injury occurs. Miss the deadline, and the consequences can be devastating. A victim may have strong evidence, clear liability, extensive damages, and a legitimate claim, yet still lose the right to pursue compensation simply because too much time passed before legal action was taken. It's one of the harshest realities in personal injury law, because once certain deadlines expire, the merits of the case often become irrelevant. But even these mistakes aren't necessarily the most dangerous threat to an injury claim. There's another factor, one that defense attorneys and insurance companies understand extremely well, that quietly influences almost every lawsuit. And it's often the difference between a successful claim and a case that completely falls apart. So, what is the hidden factor that quietly destroys more injury lawsuits than most people realize? Credibility. In personal injury law, credibility can be just as important as the injury itself. You can have medical records, you can have witnesses, you can even have clear evidence that an accident occurred. But if a judge, jury, insurance adjuster, or defense attorney successfully raises doubts about your credibility, the value of your case can change dramatically. That's because every personal injury claim ultimately tells a story. A story about what happened, a story about who was responsible, and a story about how the injury affected someone's life. The stronger and more consistent that story is, the stronger the claim becomes. The moment contradictions begin appearing, problems start to emerge. Maybe a victim exaggerates symptoms because they're frustrated and want others to understand their pain. Maybe they forget details and unintentionally provide different versions of events. Maybe they post something online that appears inconsistent with their claimed injuries. Even when none of these actions are intentionally dishonest, they can create opportunities for the defense, and defense attorneys are trained to identify those opportunities. Their goal isn't necessarily to prove that an injured person wasn't hurt. Their goal is often to create enough doubt that a jury begins questioning the reliability of the claim. Because once doubt enters the picture, compensation can decrease significantly or disappear altogether. Insurance companies understand this principle very well. That's why investigations often focus on more than medical records. They examine timelines, statements, social media activity, employment records, prior injuries, and virtually anything else that might reveal inconsistencies. To many injury victims, this feels unfair. After all, suffering an injury is already difficult enough. But the legal system is designed to evaluate evidence, not assumptions, and evidence isn't limited to proving an accident occurred. It also includes proving that the injured person's account is accurate, consistent, and trustworthy. That's why experienced personal injury attorneys often emphasize the same advice: document everything, seek medical treatment promptly, follow medical recommendations, be honest about symptoms, avoid discussing the case publicly, and most importantly, remain consistent from the beginning to the end of the claim. Because in many lawsuits, the outcome isn't determined by a dramatic courtroom moment. It's determined by dozens of small decisions made in the days, weeks, and months following the injury. The truth is that many victims don't lose because their cases are weak. They lose because they unknowingly damage their own credibility. And once that happens, even a strong claim can become an uphill battle. That's the hidden reason so many injury victims lose lawsuits. Not because they weren't injured, not because they didn't deserve compensation, but because the evidence supporting their story became weaker than the evidence questioning it. Now we'd like to hear from you. Do you think insurance companies investigate injury claims too aggressively, or do you believe these investigations are necessary to prevent fraudulent lawsuits? Share your opinion in the comments below. The debate over fairness, accountability, and compensation is far from simple. And if you enjoy learning how real lawsuits are won, lost, and fought behind the scenes, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we break down the legal strategies, hidden mistakes, and courtroom battles that shape some of the most important personal injury cases in America.